Good morning.
Morning.
Got a packed room today. That's awesome. My name is Brittany Havner, and I'm a student at the University of South Florida. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Women in Leadership and Philanthropy 2015 Symposium, and thank you for joining us for the Soaring to New Heights in Executive Leadership session. I'm honored to be able to introduce our moderator, Lauren Key, but before I do, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about myself and my experience as a WLP scholarship recipient. Being involved in this organization has opened so many doors for me. It really has been such a pleasure to be able to know and learn from such an amazing and successful group of women. It is an honor and privilege to be able to host this particular session because apart from being a business school student, I was recently promoted within my company to oversee budget and labor operations for 3 different properties across the Sarasota area. So I personally cannot be more thrilled to be here and gain some insight from these incredible women I can only hope to aspire to one day. Speaking of, I'd like to now introduce our moderator, Lauren Key. Lauren is Vice President of Marketing for Florida Hospital West of Florida Region. Florida Hospital is a corporate member of WLP and our sponsor for today's session. Lauren's background and expertise includes corporate turnarounds, mergers and acquisitions, strategic marketing and planning, launching new business enterprises, developing new product lines, driving revenue streams, managing strategic partnerships, public relations, crisis communications, and creating brand strategies and integrated marketing communication. Now please join me in welcoming Lauren.
Thank you so much. Good morning. You guys ready? So I'm going to be your co-pilot for the day, and you guys are in for a real treat this morning because these pilots over here have mapped some amazing careers, and I can't wait for you to hear about their backgrounds, how they got to where they are, and we're going to dive right in. But because I am marketing and the vice president, I'd like to share just a little bit with you about Florida Hospital. What you may not know about us is that we have 22 hospitals across the entire state of Florida. And in Tampa, we have 6 hospitals. They are located in Zephyr Hills, Wesley Chapel, Tarpon Springs, Carrollwood, and then Tampa, our big tertiary medical center, is located right across the street from USF. And then we also have a long-term acute care facility located in Connerton in Pasco County. But in addition to that, we have 4 Centricare urgent care centers, and we'll be adding 2 more in 2016. And we also have over 40 physician offices. So we have a very strong health network right here in the Tampa Bay with great access points for all of you. But I'd like to share a little bit about what we believe is the Florida hospital difference. We actually believe philosophically that healthcare isn't only about injury or illness or actually even medicine. We believe at the end of the day, it's about the human spirit. And our goal is to help our patients heal physically, but also to provide the right level of emotional and spiritual support that they need on their journey to better health. And that's really why for over a century, Florida Hospital has really focused on going beyond symptoms and treatments to really help people live happier and healthier lives. And that's really our goal. And so what you're going to see from Florida Hospital very soon, if you haven't already, is a brand new brand campaign called Inspired Health, because we believe healthcare is more than quality, it's more than expertise, and it's more than compassion. It's inspired health. And you know, the very definition of inspired is of extraordinary quality. And we really believe this at the core principle of who we are with every employee that we have, and we actually have the opportunity to see as healthcare administrators and frontline people that inspired health happens every day. So while we hope that you never need a hospital, we hope if you do, you will consider Florida Hospital. And more importantly, because it is October and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I'm going to personally challenge every one of you in here to make a promise to yourself, to your family and your friends that you will go and schedule a mammogram. If you don't have a place to do it, go to jointhepinkarmy.com. You can do it right online because you all are so busy managing careers and families and all of the busy things that you do every day. But please make a commitment. It's important. Breast cancer is preventable. It's all about early detection, and people are surviving and thriving with breast cancer. And we have several people who I personally know in this room that have survived breast cancer. So that is just my personal PSA announcement, and just promise to take good care of yourself so you can continue to take care of those you love. So thank you for that. So now let's get on with why you're really here, because we've got a really dynamic panel of amazing women. And what I'd like to do is first introduce each one of them. To my immediate right is Denise Bales-Chubb. She is the president and CEO of Florida Hospital Wesley Chapel. And you should know that out of 44 hospitals, she is only one of 4 female CEOs across the entire country in the United States as part of Adventist Health System.
Love it.
So Denise is really blazing new trails, and we appreciate the great leadership that you're showing in our organization. So next up is Colleen Chappell. Colleen is the president and CEO of Chappell Roberts. It is a local integrated marketing and communications firm. And if you know Colleen, she is a powerhouse. She is a dynamo. She's received so many awards. I can't even list them all because I think we'd be here for another 45 minutes. But we're delighted to have you here. Thank you for your great leadership in our community, Colleen. We appreciate it. And our third panelist is another special treat. Patty Phillips is the CEO of the National Association of Collegiate Women's Athletic Administrators. Wow. And she has completely done a turnaround in her organization. And so she's got some wonderful insights and best practices to share with you all today. And I think you're in for a treat. These pilots are going to take us to new heights, certainly for executive leadership. So let's first set the stage and get to know each one of our panelists. And I think, Patty, I'm going to start with you. So here's what we're going to ask them to do is give us a little bit of a career overview of how they got to where they are today. Share with us any risks that you took in your career. Share with us any surprises. Maybe you took a path less traveled that others didn't quite expect from you three. And also any key decisions that really became a part of transforming your personal career. So Patty, let's start off with you.
Great, thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here with all of you women, and what a great event. This is fantastic. We're actually in town because we're hosting our national convention at the Tampa Marriott Waterside. It's a 3-day event with 800 women from all over the country. Same type of thing, so we'll invite all you all to come over for that. And while we're here, if I need a hospital, I'm going to the Florida hospital. So great, great work.
Let's hope and pray you don't need one.
That's right. So I started my career actually, and I've been in the business of sports my entire career, which is unusual for women. And it's really been exciting. My dream when I was growing up was to be a high school English teacher and basketball coach. And right out of college, I got a job offer from a small college down the road to coach women's basketball and volleyball and be the SID and the RD in the dorm and this and that for $10,000. And I was like, that is awesome. So I took it, of course. So did that for 8 years, got my master's at the time, and it was an NAIA school, so there was no recruiting rules, and honestly, I got burnt out. It was just a lot, coaching 2 sports and recruiting all the time. And so, that might have been one of the transition points in my career, and I actually, that was about an hour outside of Kansas City, which is where I'm from. And by the way, one of the other 4 women hospital CEOs was in Kansas City at St. Luke's on the plaza, Julie Quaren, who just actually took the corporate job. But so the NCAA at the time was in Kansas City. So I actually, and this is a lesson for some of the young college students in the room, I cold called someone at the NCAA and kind of the education area because I was an NAIA student athlete and coach, and I thought the NCAA was a big bad bully and compliance and all that. But I heard they had this kind of education, outreach, life skills area. So I cold called the woman and asked her out for coffee. And at the time, the NCAA had already decided they were moving to Indianapolis 2 years down the road. So I wasn't looking for a job. And I think that's a big key. I was actually just asking if she was going to stay, what would she do in Kansas City? And we hit it off, and she hired me 2 weeks later. She actually created a position for me. And so that worked out great. Was at the NCAA for 2 years, and later on I can get into more detail, but that really changed the trajectory of my career. There's certain jobs that opened so many doors, and that was one of them. But at the same time, I didn't want to move to Indy, and it wasn't the type of job I wanted to stay in. So I ended up working then at a nonprofit called Win for KC, the Women's Intersport Network, for 11 years in Kansas City. The mission was to empower girls and women through sports and fitness, which I loved. And I also was a color analyst for women's volleyball and basketball on ESPN and Fox and those type of things during that time. But I had volunteered for Win, so that was another key. I volunteered for Win for KC, and then when the job opened up, I got the job. And then the NACWA job came along, which is another story. I got involved with NACWA while I was at the NCAA. And NACWA, I'm not going to test you later. That name, we really have to work on that, and I apologize for that. But it's about women's leadership, empowering women, celebrating women, connecting women in the business of sport that traditionally has been a male-dominated world. And it's not unlike my colleagues in the corporate world. So that's what NACWA is. So remember that piece. But, I will tell you this, and I believe this. We'll talk about career trajectories. I'm a big energy person. I'm a big goal person. I write things down. And, I'd been a NACWA member for years, never envisioned that that's where I wanted to go. But in January 1st of 2009, I wrote my goals down of the job that I wanted. And it was to run a women's nonprofit dealing with sports and dealing with leadership, a women's kind of sports nonprofit dealing with leadership for women, staff of 4 to 6 in Kansas City. Even had the salary down. The NACWA job opens up that October, and I wasn't interested at all because it was in Wilmington, North Carolina. And people were like, hello, this is what you want to do. But I was like, no, it's kind of a mess. I don't want to do that. And another lesson is you need to have truth tellers around you, and you need to share your vision and goals with people, because people actually said, no, this is your job. And it never occurred to me that a nonprofit could move. So I moved it to Kansas City, where I had a network in the downtown area, lots of corporate sponsors and folks that could help us, marketing people, branding people. And so I've been there for 5.5 years. And so I also tell young people, I think the career journey is not a linear path. I relate it more to a spiritual path, and that it's where you live out your mission of life and goals. And so you have to be open to kind of the twists and turns. And again, I told you my goal in college was to be one thing, and that's not at all where I am now. But the bucket of influence of being in that business of kind of coaching and leading and teaching people, that is still the same. So I think you have to be open, as the universe will bring opportunities your way.
Great, thank you, Patty. Colleen.
Gosh, Patty, I love that story. Good morning, everyone. Lauren told me to lean in.
I did tell her to lean in.
So
That's
I'm
going to
leaning
come
in.
up in one of our questions,
Yeah.
by the way. It's coming.
Physically and emotionally, ladies. I'm leaning in today. Thank you all for being so kind and being here early this morning. I am a proud graduate of the University of South Florida. Go Bulls. We play my hometown tomorrow, Syracuse, and we're going to kick their butt, and all of my family who's wearing orange is going down. But I am a mass communications major, and I wanted to, when I graduated, go to New York City or Miami. I'm going to go to New York City or Miami. I had no idea, but it was in my gut. I'm going to New York City or Miami. I ended up getting a job in healthcare immediately out of college and moving myself to Miami. Spent a couple years there and then came back here. And what I like to tell folks that ask me about my career is it wasn't as similar to Patty's. It wasn't a straight line. It really was more like an infinity symbol. And an infinity symbol, as you know, has curves and twists, but it all comes back to center. And when I was in healthcare in this market, one of my key lessons for all of you occurred, and it was the biggest moment in my career and probably my life, is that I was a little intern sitting there at a health system here in the market, and Deanne Dewey-Roberts, who became my business partner, saw me and saw something in me and became my mentor. And I was being very open and aware of looking for a mentor, and she was very kind and considerate and willing to be, have a mentee. So that was our relationship from right through college and beyond. And as I was in healthcare, my big turning point in my career was I saw this job. I was on this healthcare track, but I saw this job for this small, unknown startup company. And they didn't even have a name yet. And someone told me about it. And I have no idea to this day why I wanted this job so bad, but I was like obnoxious about getting this job. And I mean, I had a book, a portfolio. I mean, I told them, here's the plan on once I get the job. And I fought so hard for this job, and I didn't get it. I was devastated. But for some reason, I went back to the hiring manager and said, I'm telling you, I'm destined to work at this company. And if something doesn't work out, please know, I'm destined to work at this company. I'm surprised she didn't call the police at that point.
Colleen, by the way, we don't call it obnoxious. It's tenacity.
Thank you.
Tenacity,
Thank
okay?
you.
New word.
You're being kind, Lauren. I really kind of think I might have stepped over the line a little bit, but anyway.
Yeah.
A week later, she called me, and who they hired didn't work out. And she said, do you want to come in and go through the interview? Heck yeah, I'll be there in an hour. But anyway, we went through this whole process, and lo and behold, I got the job to start up the communications, public relations side of the business for a small company that was then named Primeco Personal Communications, that's now Verizon Wireless. And in that journey, my next lesson is everywhere I needed to learn, I raised my hand. I learned operations, which I use every day. I learned the sales side, which I use every day today. I learned the finance side. I would go into Glenn Diagardi's office and say, Glenn, what are you working on? What's going on? Tell me how this works. Tell me how the revenue works. I learned the business. I learned it. I learned how to be street smart. I learned how to build a business. And I also learned how to work through corporate America. And on this journey, I was young. I was female. They were checking some boxes saying, that's good. She's young, she's female, she's smart. Let's keep an eye on her. And I moved right up the path. And I was in a succession program where you could, really the sky was the limit in this organization. But at that time, by now, married, 2 young kids, and I really was feeling, and I don't know if anyone in this room, raise your hand if you ever feel like you kind of sold your soul to your job. So what happened to me is at that point my sister passed away, and it was a moment in time that I paid attention to. We all have tragedies in our life. We all have things that happen, but do we pay attention to them? Do we really look at ourselves and say, what does this mean for my life? And what it meant for me is I needed to make a change, but I was tired and sad and exhausted and couldn't even comprehend making a change, which is when my dear friend and mentor Deanne entered back into the equation. We had dinner every month, and she said to me, I know that this is the worst time ever, but would you give it all up and come over and help me grow this agency into something big and something exciting? Because she had the PR and issue side, and I had the branding and the marketing. I was the chief marketing officer for a big company working with international agencies. I knew what it felt like to sit in that chair. And this is my next lesson. Leap and the net will follow is my favorite saying. I leaped so far, I had to physically take a pen and write all of my stock, all of it away. And I had, over the years, really garnered a lot of equity in the company, but that's what they call golden handcuffs. And it was the single best decision I ever made. It wasn't based on money. It wasn't based on a path I had always set out. It was based on being open to the world around me, to the spirit, to my environment. And I've joined this agency, and it has been the ride of a lifetime. My worst day in my world today doesn't even compare to my best day in corporate America. And I think that it's one of those things where you have to remember that all paths have twists and turns, and every part of the journey brings you to where you are today. And that's an important lesson for all of us.
Great, thanks. Great story, Colleen. And just on a fun note, Colleen was the first professional female that I met when I relocated to Tampa from Los Angeles. And I have to say, you are all about connecting people, Colleen, and really empowering women and being a great mentor to young women. So congratulations, because it's definitely a part of your core and who you are.
Thank you. Well, someone did it for me. You got to pay it back.
Yep.
All right, Denise.
Well, I think one thing we all have in common is that we've had to work hard to get where we are. You know, I started out wanting to be a nurse. And, you know, I had strong role models within my family. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, you know, aunts, uncles, you know, were nurses. And so that's what I thought I wanted to be. I grew up in the middle of Nowheresville, Kansas. I was just telling Patty where I grew up and everything. And, you know, I went down that path and became a nurse's aide right after my senior year in high school, and I realized that I don't do well with certain things that happen between patients and things.
Blood.
And other things. So I had to readjust. What am I going to do? Well, I also had clinical laboratory scientists. Those are the people that work in the lab. They're the ones that take the blood after it's nice in a little container and run the tests and everything. So I switched gears and actually graduated from Research Medical Center in Kansas City with my clinical laboratory scientist degree. And, you know, so I thought I was happy. I'm doing what I love. Until I wasn't. And all of a sudden I felt like there was just so much more in healthcare that, you know, you could do. And I decided to go back for my master's. And, you know, that is where it all clicked. You know, as I went through high school and college and all those things, I mean, there were classes that I took and I was like, why am I taking physics? This has nothing to do with anything I want to do with my life. And when I took my master's program, it was in healthcare administration. And it was like every single class, it was like, this is exactly, you know, makes sense. It's what needs to be happening, what needs to be done. And it just fit. And so, you know, it just was a natural flow. And so I just started on my career path. And, you know, I'm probably one of those strange individuals. I don't know how many of you are familiar with healthcare, but I have zigzagged, and most people don't. You know, they go into hospital, they go into physician practice management, or they go into health insurance. You know, there's distinct lines of healthcare that really don't interact. And I've had the unique pleasure of working in all of those at some point in my career. And I think that it's made me a better overall healthcare administrator because I understand the complexities of the system and what needs to happen. So, you know, life is going good. I'm progressing the way I want to be, and then I meet a man. Y'all know those guys. And he was a hospital CEO and had been a hospital CEO for many years. And, you know, we were in separate states, but seeing each other when we could and everything, and we fell in love. And, you know, he one day said, hey, what do you think about if we try to get married and everything? And I just looked at him.
That's some kind of proposal.
And,
How romantic.
He was, yeah.
What do you think?
And I looked at him and I said, I will never be a trophy wife. And he just kind of like looked at me and he goes, well, I would never think you would be a trophy wife. And I said, and I will never give up my job.
Whoa.
And so we got married. We both met in the Denver airport with our bags and my dress and his tux, and we flew to Hawaii. We got married. We came back, separated, went our separate ways. And for 2.5 years, we lived in separate states. Wow. And we burned up the highway between New Mexico and Colorado, I tell you, you know. Because, you know, we both loved what we did, and neither one of us knew that we would be the same person without doing what we loved. And so that's what we did. We eventually did get together and started to actually cohabitate, and, you know, that was good. But I became the trailing spouse. So every time my husband would move, then it was me who kind of stayed behind, sold the house, and then followed him and tried to then find another position. And so, you know, I zigzagged all over the place. And then we got to California, And his 3 children decided they wanted to come live with us. So they were 7 and 9-ish and 12-ish. And so they came to live with us. And at that point, my husband did ask if I would take a sabbatical and help transition the kids and get them settled. And I did. So for about 2 years, I did not work. I stayed home and I took care of the kids. 2 things. Just 2. First of all, I thought my career was dead. I thought, this is it. I'm never going to be working again. And, you know, the good thing is that during that time, my father went through a lot of serious health issues, and I was able to go home, take 2-3 weeks off at a time, and leave my husband with the children because he deserved it. And you know, see my father, and he did pass away within that 2 years, and I'll never regret having that time to spend, because you just don't get that when you're actually working. You just can't take that kind of time. And the other thing is that, you know, I realized I would rather face a whole room of angry physicians than 3 disgruntled children. And so I did, after I thought they had gotten adjusted and everything, I did go back to work and, you know, found a job. And, you know, again, trailing spouse. After 35 years of being a CEO, my husband decided, you know, I think I've had enough. So he announced his retirement. And within a month, I had the offer to come down here and interview for the CEO position at Florida Hospital Wesley Chapel. And, you know, everything just fit. And so even though there are bumps, there are, you know, major crevices and everything else that you have to go through in your career, if you have a strong passion for what you do, you really love what you do, I think you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure out how to build the bridges and get across all those barriers and everything. And, you know, for me at least, it eventually all just fell into place, and I could not be happier with where I am and what I'm doing right now.
Thank you, Denise. Wow. Okay, I wrote down some key learnings. Wow, this was quite a journey. Reach out. Ask people to coffee. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Volunteer. Write things down, including how much money you want. And share your visions and your goals with people. Be open and flexible so that you can redirect your career. Don't think about a straight line. Think about infinity. It comes back to center. I loved that. Be sure to raise your hand and be willing to learn the business. Leap and the net will follow. Education helps things click. How about that for USF putting this on? Never say never. Do what you love. It's okay to take a break if you need to. You can go back. So with that, we've got, we have so many questions, and we only have 5 more minutes. So I'm going to maybe take 10 minutes, if you don't mind, before the questions come from the audience. One, Colleen, what do you think are some of the most important decisions you make as a CEO in your organization?
I think that one is real easy because day in and day out, the decisions I make as a CEO are all based on core values. Everything is about a core value, and my question to myself through every decision, if it's with an employee, with a client, with someone in the community, is how can I live my core values out through this decision? And the most important thing to me is being sure that at the core of all of my decisions beyond core values is thinking about the team. Our product is, in my world, our ideas. You know, I don't have a certain product. We have a lot of products that create things and create campaigns, and it's creativity and ideas. So at the end of the day, my focus is the team and the people based on core values.
Great, thank you. Patty, most organizations at some point or another experience some type of really turbulent times. They might have good times, they might have some bad times, whether it's financial or other. What advice would you give to women on how to deal with this type of uncertainty in their career, and how they can manage through that kind of turbulent change in an organization?
Well, I loved what Colleen said about core values. I think that is key in every circumstance in your life, to know what you want, where you're going, who you are. And, and then within that, there's bumps. There's things that happen in life. And I think one thing is, you know who you are and what you want, and you have to have faith that everything works out as it should. And in the long run, it does. It always does. You look back at your life and you say, wow, I'm glad that happened, because actually, it forced me into, I'm glad, that the coaching thing kind of overwhelmed me after 8 years, because I wouldn't be where I am today without that, right? So part of it is, I think the key to life is being able to recognize that in the moment. We can always look back and see that, but the key is in the moment. And the other thing is owning your role in everything. And I speak a lot, and what I love too is, I was thinking and listening to my two colleagues up here, really 3 colleagues, there's no golden secret. It is about resiliency and passion and believing in yourself. And we all have kind of the same, different paths, but the same stories, if you notice those themes. And so much of it is owning your role in whatever is happening. And I think that is the one thing that we don't do enough. So turbulent times, we're all a part of that. I think to say, well, that's the leader made bad decisions and I don't like this about the company. I don't ever buy into that. If you're a part of the culture, you're a part of it. So you either have to be part of the solution or leave. And I think that's a huge thing. It's much tougher to kind of own your future, own your reality. It all starts in your thoughts, and then it manifests in your actions all the time. And I think what happens is sometimes we want to always put it out there on someone else, or we don't like this or this. And the deal is, that's the universe talking to you. Well, that means it's not where you're supposed to be in your life. So the turbulent times, how we get through it, they're messages. Either it's your message that it's time to move on, or it's your message that it's time to step up and help be the change agent, because we all are creating our realities every day.
And own your mistakes, if I could add.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people want to be perfect, so owning a mistake is really, really difficult. And my advice to everyone on our team, as a matter of fact, we have a little thing called Sparkle Barbie. She is sparkly and beautiful, and when you do something, you've made a mistake, as we all do, we literally celebrate it, and you get Sparkle Barbie handed to you. So the guy Scott, who left the computer in the driveway when we're going to the presentation, and you've made a mistake, but we debrief on it, and you celebrate the fact that no one was hurt, and we can learn from it. Don't make the same mistake twice, but there's a lot of tendency that I see of people not owning their mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's where I am. I'm where I am today because I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned from them.
I want a Sparkle Barbie, number one.
I do too. I do
you
too.
are my soul
On my
sister
team,
from
we
another
call them
mother.
OFIs, opportunities for improvement. How many OFIs do we have today? But now
Right.
I think I got a new one. Got to bring Sparkle.
Yeah.
And one
Sparkle
thing,
Barbie
if I can add one more thing, a real story about this with NACWA is a perfect example. NACWA has been around for 35 years, a nonprofit run by volunteers for a long time, and then a wonderful woman was a CEO before me for 13 years. And nonprofits have life cycles, and it had kind of gotten in a low part of the life cycle, and so it was turbulent times, and it was mostly the members saying, things had really gotten bad. And when I took over, we changed the language and we started saying, who is NACWA actually? We are NACWA. And so really it was our own circle pointing at ourselves saying we're not what we should be. And that's never good when you point at one person or the leadership. And so how we turned it around, it wasn't me. It was, we created a campaign that we said, videos, I am NACWA. I'm Patty, I'm at this, and I am NACWA, and we are NACWA. And so we all took ownership of it. Yeah. We are all on the same team, no matter where you are, especially as women. And so own not only your mistakes, but own that you have power and influence to create change, and never think that it's someone else's issue. And I think that is just so key. We together create change.
Great. Speaking of mistakes, Denise, tell me about the most common mistake,
That was a good transition.
behavior or trait, mistake, behavior, or trait that you see leaders making more frequently than others? If you had to kind of boil it down and say, you know, you see leadership making mistakes, what is it?
Well, I think that's it. Not owning their mistakes.
I agree.
Forgetting the humility that you need to have as a leader, because we are all human. We all make mistakes, and there's nothing that'll turn your team off faster than you blaming somebody else for what's gone on. I mean, let's own it. Let's figure out what we can do to change it, and let's work together to get there. And that will build so much, you know, relationship and communication skills and everything amongst you and your team. And the next time that something else comes up, people won't be afraid to own a mistake. And I love Sparkle Barbie. I think you really should start marketing those.
I've gotten her more than my fair share, but I love her.
If only we had a Sparkle Barbie to pass out to everyone in the room today. That'd
If
be
you
great.
all go to our website and there's a no, listen. If you go to our website, there are pictures of the team, and in the bottom right corner is Sparkle.
I love it. I love it.
I love
so I
it
have
too.
2 more questions. I know we want to get to audience questions, but I really want to take advantage of the panel that we have. And I guess, you know, in this day of lean in, and in this day of the Atlantic article that was published about can women really have it all, I really think with this audience, it would be great to tee up, you know, can women really have it all? Can they have career? Can they have family? Can they have it all at the same time? Do they lean in? Do they lean back? I'd love to have you all address that.
Yes. Amen. Yes. Have it all. Go get it. Let's do it. But the thing is,
Says the coach.
right. What is it all to you? I mean, that's the key.
That's it.
What is it all to you at what time in your life? And there's certain times you want to step back and raise your kids. There's certain times you want to do this. And I think when we abide by what some other cultural norms are or what we think it should be, that's when we run into problems. Yeah. What do you want your life to look like? And yes, you can have that. I totally believe that. Absolutely.
I say yes, but be clear that there's going to be a compromise. So my most important job is being a wife and a mom, which is really more than one job. But my husband and I have been married 26 years. We have 2 sons in college. And at the end of the day, and I remember distinctly, as if it was yesterday, the day that the agency, Deanna and I joined forces, and we changed the agency name to Chapel Roberts. And we were driving home, and my husband said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "You know, I'd feel absolutely fabulous if I had my name on a door or not, but what's more important to me is knowing that I've done a good job as a mom and as a parent and as a wife. And really, balance is what it's all about. Mm-hmm. I have it, quote unquote, all, but every day I compromise something to have my definition of all. So there have been times in my career I had to pull back. I was my children's assistant soccer coach, which they were so annoyed about. But, you know, I'm in a house full of men, and I had to get involved and do things. I intentionally learned to water ski before they did, ski on one ski before they did, do a black diamond before they did. I mean, all these things took energy and focus, and that was my definition of all. And it's just a constant journey that there are days we will all go home and feel we failed at it. And we're harder on ourselves than anyone else. And I think we all need to be aware that the key to everything in life is balance. And that's a word people throw around. And to me, it's an endless journey that I'm always working toward. But at the end of the day, you have to say to yourself, what is it that is going to be your mark on this world? And I'm very proud of my career and what I've accomplished, but I'm more proud of the human beings that I have in my life and the relationships I have with so many people in this room and beyond. And you just got to really keep your head where it needs to be, because I think a lot of people are so busy getting it all that they forget we have today. Today's the day I need to focus on.
Yep. And I say, I totally agree with what my colleagues are saying. Yes, you can have it all, but I think the first thing you need to do is to sit down and define what that means to you.
Yep.
What are your values? Write down what your values are and keep that posted someplace, because every single night you need to be able to go to bed and say, am I living my values? And if you're not going to be happy with yourself. You know, I'm so fortunate that I have a very, very loving husband. And, you know, we understand the demands that our careers have placed on us. And having that understanding has allowed us to make accommodations to, you know, understand that, oh, you're going to be late tonight because you have this meeting with a group of doctors. I understand. I'm not going to be upset because I cooked dinner and it's sitting there getting cold. You know, you have to understand where your spouse is, where your children are, and then make those choices and feel good about those, knowing that you did your best. You know, it's not easy, and, you know, it takes a lot of diligence. But if you truly love what you do, and if you truly love the person that you're with, you're going to figure it out, and you will then be happier overall in the end.
I want to add something. I love that whole story you just outlined, Denise, and I completely agree. When my youngest son, it just hit me, graduated high school, we had about 50 people over, the closest friends, family, and people flew in, and I decided to take them all in the yard, and I held up a sign, "Thank you for being our village," and we all took a picture. Oh. And I do think that it was very, very hard for me personally to ask for help. I wanted to be the mom that did this, you know, and I was the mom that went to the principal and said, "Do you really have to have tea at 10 a.m.? Some of us work. We worked through that, but the point is that, I mean, there are other times we can have tea, and it can be after hours, but needless to say, we fixed it. But my point is I had no choice. My husband sat me down and he said, "Colleen, you have got to be okay letting people help you." But I didn't want help. I thought it was my job, my responsibility. And that really, really opened my life up to be able to find a trusting, loving network that could help me be the village that I needed to do this, and to do this well and without any regrets. And I think my advice to all of you is be open to getting help.
Would you say that your definition of having it all can change over time and morph
Absolutely, yeah.
as your life is changing? So what it looks like, you know, on
Yes.
one day could look very different 10 years down the road. So
Yes.
being open and flexible. Last question, then we're going to turn it over to you and let you all ask the questions. This is my favorite one of all time, so we might have to do a little bit of a lightning round on this one. But what advice would you give to your younger self, you know, about having a career and becoming a good leader?
I think, you know, it's the same thing that we all struggle with. I would tell my younger self that, yes, you can do it. You know, it's this confidence thing, and I think we're all really confident, but that doesn't mean that we didn't have to work on it. You know, confidence is learned and earned, and it can be grown. I mean, the book, The Confidence Code, we'll talk through that. As women, we have to do a better job of looking back at our successes. And so number one, I would say that actually you can, because I never thought I could be a CEO when I was younger. I kind of evolved into that. And the second thing is who you surround yourself does determine the trajectory of your life. The people in your life, Harvard Business Review talks about the 5 people you know, they can determine your health, wealth, and you know, salary or something by the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's so true. Are you hanging around people that are working hard every day to improve themselves? They're reading, they're supporting you, they're celebrating you, they're looking at opportunities? Or are you around the naysayers that are always finding the victims, things are wrong? Because it changes your outlook on life, which would eventually change, you know. And our parents try to tell us that in a way that we can't kind of take in as young people. But that is, those are probably the 2 messages that, you know, really be conscious. And actually, I've been conscious of both of those throughout my career. I mean, every day I think about that. Not even my career, but my life. You know, continue to build and grow your confidence and be really conscious of who you surround yourself with.
And mine would be, I have 2 as well, and I completely agree with yours, belief in yourself. But my 2 would be, first and foremost, that strive for excellence, not perfection. You know, there's that holy grail of perfection that is exhausting. There's no such thing. We're all human beings. Check out Adam and Eve. You know, there are realities out there that we all need to understand, that we can strive for excellence, but perfection can really be exhausting and inhuman and really hurt yourself. And I became exhausted with some of that and learned to let go. And the second thing is, there's a really incredible speaker, one of my favorites. I would write this down. His name is DeWitt Jones, and he was a National Geographic photographer, and he's now on the speaking circuit. And he does a whole session on there's more than one right answer. There's more than one right answer. And it's all about, if you are a photographer and you take a photo and you move that lens 10 degrees, the entire photograph changes, but it's still a right, beautiful answer. And I think I spent time trying to think of what's the answer in my life, in my work, in my decisions. There's more than one right answer, and I'm really happy that I've trained myself when I come up with something to say, can I come up with a couple more right answers?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so first of all, and you know, this is not going to be advice that you're going to probably want to give to your kids, but going through high school and college, I should have lightened up. I mean, I was so focused and so, you know, had to get that 4.0, you know. And so, I mean, there were Saturday nights when I missed basketball games, you know, for the school because I was home studying that physics, you know. Yeah. And so I would first of all lighten up and enjoy life a little bit more because I didn't. I focused and I studied a lot. And then the other thing I would say is, don't ever sacrifice relationships.
Good one.
You know, that is key. That is what's going to get you through the tough times. That's who's going to be celebrating with you when you have your wins. And just never, ever sacrifice a relationship.
That's good. Really good advice.
3 amazing women with incredible advice. Thank you all so much. We're going to turn it over. With the time we have left, we're going to turn it over to you all to ask any questions of our panelists that you would like to, information you would like to know.
I have a question about perceptions and how you manage it, and it's prompted by, I was at a meeting a year ago, and there was a GM dealer owner, many dealerships, and he criticized Mary Barra, who's the new CEO, because she's being grilled in Congress about their debacle. And afterwards, I asked him, I said, what do you think she should have done? And he said, I think she should have cried.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, I was stunned. So how do you manage when you have people that have stuff like that in their head? How do you manage them?
Ignore them.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't control other people's perceptions, and that's get back to the core values and doing what you think is right. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of crazy people, there might be, but there's a lot of people that, you know, and I think now with social media, they just say things that they shouldn't probably be saying. And no, I think a woman leader needs to project as any leader, man or woman. We're talking leadership. And so anytime they pull something out that is gender specific, I think that's not right either way, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed. Other questions? Come on, I know you guys have questions.
Hi. How do you combat the, like, kind of old school, you know, if you work with, you know, traditional male in a very, well, it's not as much male dominated now, but, you know, the legal field, and this male partner who you work very closely with tells you regularly, your problem is you want it all. You want to be a great mother. You want to have your children. And yet you want to be a great lawyer, and I think you'd be a better lawyer if you chose.
Human resources, please. Really?
It's true. It's true.
I'm serious too. It is a reality. It is a reality, and it does happen, and it's happened to me, and I didn't run to HR, but I think for me, even when I was younger and in corporate America, where there was a certain look, a certain style, a certain notion on how you became a leader, I told people straight up, this is who I am. I wear bold colors. I might be a little bit boisterous, but you check all of my numbers. You check all of my scores. You check all of my metrics. And bar none, I always delivered the goods. If you deliver the goods, that's all it's going to take. You go and you deliver the goods and you will prove them wrong. And I've done that before. And at the end of the day, I had one of my bosses at corporate America come to me and he said, I do not know how you do it, but you have the highest satisfaction scores of your team, the highest this, the highest that. I said, because I'm doing it my way. And this way, at the end of the day, is going to help the company and help our customers. So let's all embrace it because I can deliver the goods.
You know, one thing that I will say, and everybody can either boo me or whatever, but you know, I think it's real important not to whine about your workload.
Oh no.
And all the things you have to do before or after work.
Agree.
So conduct yourself in a professional manner. That's where it comes down to. Conduct yourself in a professional manner and you will be treated professionally.
And sometimes, to add on to that real quickly, you might be being tested, and it's not fair, but it is. And go ahead and know you're being tested and prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And last quick thing, who you work for matters too.
Yes.
And so, quite frankly, sometimes it's just not the right fit. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But we have to, again, own that there's great bosses out there, men and women, that will support this, and you got to find them.
Hi, ladies. Thanks for all your great advice. As executive levels and wives and mothers, what would be some of your top tips on time management and staying focused through the day to be at the level that you're at? Time management tips.
Well, I'll jump in because what was interesting is I learned time management from Deanne long before I was in an agency. And what she told me to do one day is she said, pretend you are in an agency and pretend that you have to look at a timesheet and every 15 minutes log what you've done. So I did it for a week. I logged every 15 minutes what I was doing. Ooh, I still hate timesheets. But anyway, they're important. But anyway, it was an exercise in seeing first and foremost how I spent my time, because a lot of the time was wasted or not efficient. And for me, time management is being organized, understanding that I have to learn how to do things a little quicker and forgive myself if it's not perfect, and also be very focused on that village around me to help me do more in the time I have. And the village could include your team, your friends, your families. I know in my gut when I need a good best friend glass of wine, because that's going to be more helpful to me than 4 hours of working. So really, those are some thoughts I have.
Yeah, you know, when the kids came to live with us, you know, they had like no organizational skills, and I'm like the ultimate in organization. My spice rack is alphabetized, so. You know, and they were. I did what all good managers do. I did standard operating procedures. And, you know, it was on the refrigerator, and everybody knew what their tasks were. They knew what we're having for dinner, lunch, breakfast, because I didn't want them coming to ask me every 5 minutes, what are we eating tonight? And, you know, it was like, you don't come downstairs for breakfast unless your bed is made. You're going to, you know, you have, sorry guys, but you kind of have to run it that way, or else you're going to be in chaos. Yeah. And they came after their habits were set. So you can still help mold them.
Good point.
And get them to where they need to be, and you know, it will make your life simpler. And keep it simple. You know, kids don't need to be in 10 different activities. Find the 1 or 2 that they're going to be good at, and encourage them along. And you know, spend quality time on whatever you're doing, and not just lots of time.
Yeah.
And one other quick tip, you know, because as women, we don't do this as readily as men do, and that is to pay for services that you need to pay for.
Good point.
Your time is valuable.
Time is money.
As an executive. And that's what men do with secretaries or assistants or their wives, quite frankly. And so as women, you know, you're still kind of, you're doing all of that, and you're running companies or whatever. And we don't think about that as readily, but pay for services. Your
Amen.
time is valuable. That's a
Amen.
big
Especially hire a cleaning service, ladies.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just do it.
So I have
just
to
do
just
it like
tag
Meg.
Everybody's
in.
doing it or wants to do it, so just do it.
Yeah.
Take something off your list. Let somebody else handle it.
I have
I
to tag
couldn't.
in
Yes, you
though,
can.
on what Patty was saying. So a couple weeks ago, so I'm fairly new to Tampa. I've only been here a little over a year now. And, you know, my husband and I were kind of like, you know, this needs to be done and that needs to be done. And, you know, who's going to do that? And, you know, we both looked at each other and we go, we need a wife. And, you know, and so I agree. You have to just break down and find somebody who's going to be able to help do some of those things.
Yeah.
And one other quick thing with our culture, the way it is today, and the pace, no matter what level you are, I do believe in mindfulness, you know, whatever it is for you, if it's breath work or yoga or something, and I've been in and out of it. I mean, I get to where I'm traveling and I'm back on my committed mode because this is an ongoing thing. It's not like you put one of these things in place and all of a sudden, it is a constant thought process every day. But I do think the mindfulness piece, the slowing down in the morning or evening, it helps you put in perspective all those lists. So those are important, and then it's the overall piece about what's the most important. It's getting through each day, and we mentioned it earlier, like loving the moment, enjoying the moment, and that happens through whatever it is that you do. And I think everyone needs to find something that works for them, whether it's breath work or yoga or prayer, whatever that is, it's critical, I think.
Yep.
Lauren, just last question. Sure. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So going along with wanting it all, sometimes being young, I feel like I get judged for sometimes concentrating more on like wanting the family. So sometimes I feel like the judgment comes from women themselves of wanting it all is not just my career, it's also wanting to be a mother and a wife and taking care of the household. So kind of like there's that going to left with the feminists and then going to right, and it's kind of like, how do you find that middle to have people appreciate that being part of, in the grandeur of being a woman, is being able to be a mother and be a wife and then also have the career that you want.
Yeah.
I'd quit listening to others. Okay?
I was just going to say that.
You have to do what's right for you at this time in this moment, and you know, you just shut your ears off to criticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody asks a man, hey Bob, hey Joe, how are you going to balance your family life with being a CEO of an organization? I think it's unacceptable, and I have to just comment on one thing. I'm very passionate about this. Women have to support women. Men do this very well. They do it every day on the golf course. And, you know, let's not tear people down. Let's build them up and empower them, because women are amazing. We are a backbone of this society. We know who gets it done at home and in the workplace. So be kind, help others, and help other women. You know, and ask for the help, because it's so important that we all support each other and have an incredible network of people that will support us and lift us up. I'm sorry, I had to jump in on that
No,
one.
I agree, and I want to.
I'm gonna lean back now.
I'm going to add on to that I felt that, but I felt it in looking at you. I feel for you, because now my older self realized I should have done exactly that. I should have shut it out. I was in a neighborhood, and one side of the street the moms worked and the other didn't, and and I got all in my head on that. But what hit me is I went to this long week course in the middle of nowhere in my past life, and they sent us out to Texas on horses and the whole thing for a week.
That's my kind of week.
No, it cost a fortune, and at the end of the day, this is what it was all about. And I say this all the time, and people who know me, 3 words: be here now.
Yep.
Right now, we're all in this room. I have a million things to do. My email's flying. My children, one of them is ill at college. I'm here now. And when I'm home, I'm there now, and it might mean I do email later or whatever, but it's those kind of things, and don't let those voices get in your head, and if they are in your head, push them out.
I totally agree. And the last thing, again, who are you hanging out with? Hang out with me. I want to hang out with you. Hang out with these women.
We're
and
your
so
friends.
It is like those of you that are, you're talking about these people that keep putting you down. Change jobs, change your friends, change it, because there's a lot of women in this room that would never say that.
Never.
Exactly.
And I love it. We have to support each other. And guess what? We do. If you are in circles where you're not with women who support women, you're in the wrong circle. That is your issue, because we are supporting each other. We do it. NACWA, our brand is built on this. We can't advance as women. And so hang out with women and men that support you, and they are out there. And let the other ones go huddle up on their own. We don't want to hang out with them.
Patty, tell them this. Tell them my new saying that you taught me
Because
today.
together we are kicking glass, ladies. That's what we're doing. Amen.
Yes, we are. Patty, Colleen, Denise, thank you for sharing all of your
Thank you.
hard-won wisdom with all of us
Thank you.
and helping us be better leaders.
I want to